The darkness in the room wasn't natural. It was a living, breathing thing, thick and suffocating. Outside the stone walls of his cell, a storm raged, but inside, a different kind of war was beginning. He could hear them before he could see them, a sound that wasn't a sound, a chorus of mockery and hatred that vibrated in his very bones. It was an army from hell itself, marching not on a battlefield of dirt and stone, but on the battlefield of a single human soul. And they had come for him. They had come for the friar who bore the wounds of Christ. They believed he was alone, outnumbered, and helpless. They were wrong, because in his hand he held a weapon that made all of hell tremble. To understand the battle, you have to understand the man. This was Francesco Forgione, known to the world as Padre Pio, a humble Capuchin friar in a remote Italian monastery. But he was far from ordinary. For 50 years, he bore the stigmata, the bleeding wounds of Christ's crucifixion, on his hands, feet, and side. This wasn't a metaphor. It was a painful, physical reality that doctors could never explain. Because of this, he became a living sign of contradiction, a focal point for both immense faith and intense scrutiny. People saw him as a direct line to the divine, a confessor who could read their souls. But where there is great light, there will always be great darkness. The forces of evil were drawn to him, not just to tempt him, but to break him. They saw his holiness as a threat, a beacon they desperately wanted to extinguish. His life wasn't just one of prayer. It was a constant, grueling spiritual combat. And if you're finding this story compelling, take a moment to subscribe. You'll be joining a community that explores the deeper truths that shape our world. This wasn't just a bad dream. In the language of spiritual warfare, what Padre Pio experienced were known as vexations or obsessions. These weren't temptations to steal or lie. They were direct, terrifying assaults designed to shatter his spirit. Accounts from his life, and the lives of many other saints, speak of physical blows from unseen hands, terrifying apparitions, and waves of despair so profound they felt like a physical weight. The goal is simple: isolation and fear. Make the person believe God has abandoned them. Make them feel utterly alone in their suffering. The enemy wanted to flood his mind with noise, with blasphemies, with doubt, so that he couldn't hear the voice of God. It was a siege. They surrounded his soul, cutting off supply lines of hope and peace. In that cell, on that night, the full force of this strategy was unleashed. The army he saw wasn't just a vision. It was the culmination of a long campaign of terror, their final push to break his will. Faced with this terrifying legion, a normal person would scream. They would run. They would collapse in fear. And that is exactly what the demons expected. They fed on that terror. But Padre Pio did something else. He didn't engage them in a debate. He didn't try to reason with pure hatred. He didn't even shout prayers of exorcism. Instead, with a trembling hand, he reached for the simple string of beads by his bedside. The Rosary. To an outsider, it would look like an act of desperation, a powerless gesture. What could a string of knots and a small crucifix possibly do against an army? It seemed like bringing a child's toy to a war. But that's because we see with our eyes. Padre Pio and the forces of hell saw with a different kind of sight. They knew this wasn't just wood and string. It was a chain, a weapon, and a declaration of allegiance. The moment his fingers closed around that first bead, the entire dynamic of the battle shifted. Why this prayer? Why the Rosary? Because the Rosary is Christ-centered, but it is filtered through the person whom demons fear above all others, Mary, the Mother of God. Theologians call her the terror of demons. Why? Because she is the model of perfect obedience to God, the exact opposite of the prideful rebellion that caused their fall. She is the new Eve, whose yes to God untied the no of the first Eve. When you pray the Rosary, you aren't just reciting words. You are calling upon her. You are aligning yourself with her perfect humility and her powerful intercession. The demons in that cell didn't just see a friar. They saw a son calling for his mother. And not just any mother, but the Queen of Heaven, whose heel was prophesied in Genesis to crush the head of the serpent. Each Hail Mary is not a magic incantation. It is a reaffirmation of this reality. It is a reminder to the forces of darkness of their ultimate and permanent defeat. So how does it actually fight? It's not about the physical beads. The power is in the meditation. The Rosary is a journey through the life of Jesus Christ. While your lips recite the vocal prayers, your mind is meant to be meditating on the mysteries, the Annunciation, the Crucifixion, the Resurrection. This act does two things simultaneously. First, it fills your mind with the sacred. There is no room for the enemy's lies and accusations when your entire focus is on the life of your Savior. It's like filling a room with light. The darkness has no choice but to flee. Second, it is an act of profound humility. It's an admission that you cannot win this fight on your own. You are entrusting your battle to Jesus through the hands of his mother. Pride is the native language of hell. Humility is a language they cannot understand, a force they cannot overcome. For Padre Pio, each decade of the Rosary was like a volley of artillery against the demonic lines, not of his own power, but of the power of heaven he was channeling. As Padre Pio prayed through the mysteries, the terrifying vision began to dissipate. The horde of demons, faced with the power of Christ's life and the presence of his mother, could not remain. They retreated, not with a single decisive bang, but like shadows fading in the dawn. The battle was won. This experience, and countless others like it, forged his conviction. It's why he was rarely seen without a rosary in his hand. It's why he gave this advice to everyone who came to him seeking peace. He famously said, "The rosary is the weapon for these times." He didn't say it was a nice devotion or a helpful suggestion. He called it the weapon. He told another person, "Go to the Madonna. Love her. Always say the rosary. Say it well. Say it as often as you can. Be souls of prayer. Never tire of praying. It is what is essential. Prayer shakes the heart of God. It obtains necessary graces. For him, this wasn't just theology. It was battlefield-tested truth. Now, it's easy to dismiss this as a story from another time. We don't see armies of demons in our bedrooms. But do we not face our own legions? The legion of anxiety that whispers, "You're not good enough." The legion of despair fueled by social media comparison. The legion of addiction that promises pleasure but delivers only chains. The legion of noise and distraction that keeps us from ever being silent and at peace. These are the modern battlefields of the soul. And the ancient weapon is just as effective today. The act of sitting down, disconnecting from the chaos, and meditating on something greater than your problems is a revolutionary act of defiance. It reorders your mind. It reminds you that your anxieties are not the ultimate reality. It starves the demons of fear and distraction that they feed on. It's a spiritual reset button, a way of reclaiming your inner peace one bead at a time. Padre Pio's vision wasn't just a spooky story. It was a lesson from heaven. It teaches us that the greatest battles are not won with anger or strength, but with humble, persistent prayer. It shows that we have access to a powerful spiritual weapon, given to us for times of great trial. You don't have to be a saint to use it. You just have to be willing to try. Start with 1 decade, 5 minutes. Find the mysteries online and just think about them as you pray. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. Just do it. The story of that night in the monastery cell is a promise. You are not alone in your struggles. There is a power you can call upon, a peace that is waiting for you. The army of hell seemed invincible, but it was scattered by a friar and his rosary. Whatever army you may be facing in your own life, remember the weapon heaven has given you. What's the biggest demon you're fighting in your life right now? Share it in the comments below. You'll be surprised how many others are fighting the same battle.